welcome a true legend to the LaLanne Pass It On podcast. A woman who didn't just redefine what strength looks like, she inspired generations to chase it with pride and purpose. She is a six-time Ms. Olympia champion, a Hall of Famer, a trailblazer in women's fitness, and someone who embodies the same spirit of energy and inspiration that Jack LaLanne passed on to the world. From the stage to the screen to the hearts of millions, Cory Everson has lived her life with passion, power, and purpose. And she's here today to pass it on. Cory, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I just love Elaine so much. I just want to hug her and kiss her.
Well, Cory, we want to know all about you. I'm always wanting to know about your, how you got into this. How and what inspired you? I know that you were going to the University of Wisconsin. I was born in Minnesota, but I came to California in 1945, so I'm really a Californian. But anyway, so were you ever inspired before that? I mean, like in grade school or in high school, were you did you
Yes.
run races and stuff like that?
Yes, I was in high school. I lettered in four sports in swimming, gymnastics, badminton, and track and field. In fact, I was just back in my high school and I still hold two track and field records 40 years later.
Really?
Can you believe that? In the shot put and the 100-meter hurdles. And I'm like, come on, girls, you've got to be able to beat me by now. But it was so beautiful and wonderful to be back at my high school and get that award. So I got a
Was,
Lifetime
was it
Achievement Award from my high
one of
school.
your old 25th, 30th, 40th reunion or whatever?
I went to my 20th reunion and I have not been back to another one, but I need to go. And then from there, I got a full ride scholarship to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where I competed in gymnastics, badminton, indoor and outdoor track. And I won the Big Ten 4 years in a row in the pentathlon, which is high jump, shot put, half mile, hurdles, and long jump. And then I met my husband, Jeff Everson, there. He was the strength coach, and he was just like blown away, like because I had this natural muscularity, I think a lot from gymnastics. And he convinced me to compete. Oh, and then the track team, we were all the pentathletes since we were power athletes, and we had to throw the shot put and do the hurdles and the high jump and the long jump. We did weights, and it was the first time I ever was introduced to weights. Was my freshman year at the end of the year in college, and Jeff was the strength coach. And in my senior year, he's convinced me to compete in bodybuilding. And it was just like such a natural progression because I was already muscular and I was already training and I was already in shape. And most of the girls on my track team could have competed in bodybuilding because they had these like amazing hamstrings and quadriceps. And the sprinters had these like awesome biceps, and it was just like such a natural progression. So I used my gymnastics showmanship on stage and my track and field athleticism on stage. And that's how I got into bodybuilding.
Wow, that is amazing, just amazing.
That is, and Cory, you helped shape an entire era of women's bodybuilding, certainly. What do you hope your legacy is in the world of fitness?
Well, one of the legacies that I haven't talked about much is when I was 20 years old, I had a blood clot and they were going to amputate my leg. And it was a complete blood clot in my iliac, femoral, and popliteal veins. And I had just graduated from college. I was working as a designer in Northbrook, Illinois, loved my job. And I kept having this pain, and I was getting ready to compete in a contest with Jeff on the weekend, and I had this pain like in my stomach and my groin, and my leg was so tired, and I just felt like it was asleep and wouldn't wake up. And one night I woke up and my leg was doubled in size. Literally, it looked like Tom Platz. I mean, literally, it looked like my from my toes to my hip that the skin was so shiny and enlarged that it looked like it was going to just split. And so I was in intensive care for 10 weeks and critical care for 4 weeks. And then I had to learn to walk again. And I lost all this weight in the hospital bed. And I remember taking like soup cans and doing arm curls laying in the hospital bed because I couldn't get up. I was prone, the entire time. And I would draw little things on the menus for the chef, and he'd always give me extra food, because I was so hungry because I had this fever and it was just burning up all my calories. So the very first contest I had after that was in Caesar's Palace, and we did couples, and I had just learned to walk again, and I had just gotten the flexibility in my leg again because the veins were all scarred up, and I was so skinny, and that's where people remember me, and they're like, "Oh, she was so skinny," and I'm like, "No, I wasn't. I graduated high school at 150 pounds, and I still weigh 150." But so
How
that
tall are you? How tall are you?
5'9".
5'9". See?
Yeah, I'm a big one.
Yeah.
So the inspiration that I always forget to talk about because, it's in the past, but is that never say never. I mean, the doctor said I'd never be able to walk normally again or compete in sports. And Jeff and I were like, "Oh, yes, she can." It was like, "Oh, yes, I can. I can do this." And I won 6 Miss Olympias.
Anything is possible if
Absolutely.
you make it happen. Anything can happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it has to come from here. And I remember laying in the hospital and just praying to God, just please save me and save my leg, and I will do good things in this world. And I was bargaining, and I would visualize my blood circulating through my veins and getting rid of the clot. And I would just do a lot of visualization. And
That's what Jack was a visualizer. I mean, he used to say, "I can see myself coming out of the water,"
yes,
and
yes,
I can see and everything we have in our this area that here we live. He's the one that visualized it.
yes,
Well, I'm a visualizer too.
yeah.
So I think if people would visualize more, they would get more done.
Yes, and it like presets your mind too. Like I would visualize my contest before I'd compete. I'd visualize being in the starting blocks. I'd visualize snapping out of the blocks. I'd visualize in bodybuilding my routines all the way, to receiving my trophy. I'd visualize it so that I could do these routines in my sleep. And it really does help because it creates like neural pathways where your body is connected to your mind, and you do better.
I think that makes champions. I sometimes when I watch the Olympics and whatnot, and then they're diving off the board, you can see them. They stand on the board, and then you can just see them thinking, and then
Yes,
you see them actually doing it, and
yes,
it's perfect.
yes.
Like, so people would. That's a little tip. Everyone
Yep,
visualize.
yep. I love it. You have to. Even like when you're doing weights, like, some people are just like lifting the weights and not paying attention
No,
to
they're
what their
not.
body.
You're so right. You
And
have
it's
to
like
pay
you have
attention.
to just sit there and think, oh,
Let me let me tell you a little story. I was a golfer. And so now I'm playing in this tournament, and I'm really right up there, and I'm ready to win or whatever. And I look at the sand trap. I'm over on the side of the sand trap, and I look in the sand, and I said, "Oh, I hope I don't fall. I hope I don't go in there." And all of a sudden I started thinking about that. I went in the sand, And then I went into the sand and I missed the shot to get on the green, And so then I got a hold of myself and I said, visualize this going right up to the pin. So I hit that ball and it went right up to the pin. So, I mean, that's a lesson that I learned
Yes, yes,
about visualization.
yes.
I got a lot of stories like that.
I love it. But it's so true. And I think a lot of people skip that part. Like they just want to get right into hitting the ball or,
Yeah.
going to the gym and doing some squats. But I just think if you really visualize, it really sets that pattern of where you're headed.
This morning I do jackknives. I do 20 every day. Some I can do more, but I just do 20. And so I was doing my jackknives and I was kind of lazy and I just, I said, I visualized my touching my toe. I can't touch my toes, but I could touch almost above my ankles. And so I visualized myself touching my ankles. And I did. And so it shows me, I mean, it was just a touch because
Yeah.
but it was a pretty good for a 99-year-old, to do.
Unbelievable.
So I just learn almost every day. I mean, that's a little lesson I learned this morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just gotta concentrate,
Yeah.
concentrate.
Yeah. It makes a big difference. So I just can't believe you're 99. I just can't believe it. I mean, we've seen each other at so many different appearances, you know, over the course of the last 40 years. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
unbelievable. My
Well,
mom's going to turn 90 on June 14th, so I get to go home for my mom's birthday. And
oh.
I told her that you said that she was just a little youngster turning 90. Love that. Most people at 99 are not doing what you're doing. I mean, you're absolutely amazing. You're my hero. And
Well,
I want
you're
to grow
my
up to be
hero.
just like
My
you.
goodness. I guess I like to get into all the sports too. I always in high school I always did a lot of the same stuff. But I was not a bodybuilder. I was a swimmer, but you know, it's it's amazing that what you have done and if people would do more sports, it,
Oh,
even if it's just some kind of a sport.
yes. Anything. And not even, you don't even have to compete. Just be physical
Look
and
at Greg. Greg, can you show us what you're doing? Because he's a Ninja Warrior, and he's been on the Ninja Warrior show. And on the 16th, is it the 16th of June?
It will be on
Tell us
NBC
about it.
on
Tell
June
us about it.
16th.
are you kidding?
So every year they need a token old person. So I'm your mid 60s old guy getting up there trying to be a 14-year-old kid again. But it was a lot of fun. It will air on NBC between 7 and 9 on June 16th. So that was a lot of fun.
Are
But
they going to
Cory,
show your interview too that day?
the what now?
Uh,
Oh
the
yeah, they'll show
inter-
the interview, and actually Elaine is on the interview, so she will be a big part of it. Jack, of course. Well, that was really why I wanted to do it, was because we get to talk about Jack and his legacy and impact,
Mm,
certainly on my career,
Mm.
and all that the LaLanne brand has brought to my career and life. So that was why I wanted to do it, to showcase the LaLanne legacy. But
that is great. I've got it written down.
June
June
6th
16, 7 and 9
on
on
NBC.
NBC.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, hey,
I,
I see those 6 trophies in the background there. And obviously, discipline and consistency played a big role in getting those trophies. I'm
yeah.
curious, what role does discipline and consistency play in your life today compared to when you were competing?
Well, I used to always say that it was harder being a parent than it was being six-time Miss Olympia because as an athlete, you know when you're going to eat, how you're going to train, Like I would always do 2-a-day workouts. I was always overtrained. You get in such good shape that to do a little more isn't that much. But then you do a little more and you do a little more, and then you're overtrained, but you don't realize it because you're just, you're accustomed to it. But being a parent, we adopted our kids from Russia. I don't know if I told you that, but they're from my son is from Sochi, Russia, Boris. We adopted him when he was 3.5. He's now an LA City firefighter. And my daughter Nina, we adopted when she was 5.5 years old from St. Petersburg, Russia. And she's a commercial real estate manager at like hospitals and stuff. They're both brilliant and they're amazing. I just was in Joshua Tree camping with them.
I was just gonna say, they were camping with you last week.
Yeah, they brought me, and it was like there's all these kids, in their 20s, and then there's old lady me, 67, and it was so much fun. We hiked, and my son he took such good care of me. I mean, it was like, Mom, did you get enough to eat? Mom, are you okay? This isn't a race. You can slow down. Mom, I mean, he was, oh, it was just so amazing. I just love my kids so much. It's just unbelievable. But I had so much fun, and it was so beautiful. And
do they go hiking with you? No, she's a great hiker,
I love hiking. We went to places where we would see old adobe buildings from the 1800s, and we'd see old gold mines, and then bridges or dams that were built 200 years ago. It was just really, it was like going on a field trip, and we walked miles and miles and miles, and it was so much fun. But I hike, my kids rock climb. I don't rock climb. I'm not doing that. But I go to the gym still, like there's a gym right across the street from where I live. And my sister, who lives a mile away from me, we go, and my husband will go, and we'll go and do a little workout. My workouts are like 25, 30 minutes and I'm done. And it's enough to keep me in shape, and it's enough to keep my muscle tone up at my age. And I don't have to break a sweat. I mean,
that's what I do. I have never ever spent hours working out. I've spent most of my life, I've spent 20 minutes to half hour, working out.
And you know what? It's such a good workout because
but I put everything into it.
Exactly. And you just go right from one piece of equipment to the next. And in between, if somebody's on something, I'll do some squats or I'll do something else. And it is like you can get so much done. And you look at the kids nowadays, and they're on their phones, and they're looking at their phones, and they do like one set every 10 minutes. I mean, in 10 minutes, you've got half your workout done. And I think that really keeps your metabolism up, and it keeps your muscle tone nice and tight, where we can stay strong as we get older.
I want Greg to show some of the things you do with your Nidget. I mean, he does it every morning. If you look on Facebook or Instagram, you'll see him, going from bar to bar in the up above the. It's amazing.
And Greg, no injuries, no shoulder issues, no injuries.
No, I grew up wrestling and doing judo my whole life, so I think that the core strength that I developed in my shoulder and core supported, because it's amazing. I started just before I was 60, and it will be 65 very shortly. And I've had zero issues with the shoulder. Either shoulder. So yeah, no, I've been very fortunate with that. And Cory, I want to kind of flip back and talk about, you've inspired generations of women to embrace muscle, which used to not be such a thing, but it is now. And and the confidence and the ownership of their health. I'm curious, along the way, who inspired you throughout your journey?
The first person was my mom. She was ahead of her time. Like she was a track athlete in Germany. And then the war broke out, and otherwise she would have been an Olympic track athlete. She's an amazing athlete. And I grew up with a mom that was so strong. She had to play tennis with the guys because her forehand and backhand were so strong. Then she played paddleball, and then she drove the school bus for 50 some years, and then she would mow the lawn, and she would mow my sister's lawn. She'd pick up the picnic table with one hand and sweep underneath it and put it down. And I'm like, I thought that's how all moms were. And I'm like, what do you mean your mom can't do that? Like, what's the matter? And so she was ahead of her time, and she was so kind. Well, she's still here, so I'm not speaking in the past, but she was so kind to people, and she always helped the underdog. And so I grew up seeing mom always helping the underdog, the person that maybe nobody liked, or the person that wasn't so good, and the older person who couldn't take care of their lawn and take care of their dog. And that's my mom. And so I grew up with that. And so all three of us girls are that person. My sister Charmaine and Cameo and I were always helping people. And we love the underdog, and we're not the type that goes to the Hollywood parties. I've never been to one. We're just simple Midwestern girls that love people. And I always say I'm so grateful I grew up in the Midwest, raised by European parents. It's just really, it's a different thing, and besides my mom, who was the initial person that made me realize women can be strong, and it's normal to be really strong as a woman. We never saw anything different, was Jeff. And in college, him just like really I was shy. And so he really kind of pulled me out of my insecurity and shyness and made me realize I could do something great. And I never really thought I could do something great. I knew I was a good artist and I was a good athlete, but I didn't know I could be the greatest athlete, and he really gave me that confidence. And he really, I can't say enough about him. He really inspired me so much. I have my picture right here. This is my comfort in my affliction, that your promise gives me life. Psalm 119:50. That what we once enjoyed deeply, we can never lose. All that we love deeply becomes part of us. And so he was my inspiration in the whole fitness and bodybuilding world. I never would have gotten into it if it weren't for him. And when I was in the hospital with my blood clot, he was there. He was studying to get his PhD at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and he'd drive from Wisconsin to Chicago to the hospital I was in, and he'd be sitting in this little wooden chair, and I'm all hooked up to all this stuff, just getting what was it called, streptokinase and all this stuff, trying to dissolve this clot, and he's studying it and researching it, and it was just amazing. So my mom made me realize from day one that it was normal to be an unbelievable strong athlete as a woman. And then Jeff made me realize I can be better than I ever imagined. And he was the one, you need to believe in yourself. You need to talk to yourself. You need to visualize. You need to love yourself. And
yes, loving yourself is very important.
And I think a lot of young girls don't. I don't think
so many people don't like themselves.
No. And I think I see, like, I have a daughter, and, we work a lot on helping other people, because a lot of her friends don't love themselves, and they're doing stupid things, and they, just are doing dumb things to their body. And it's all about love God, love yourself, love your parents, love your kids. And if you don't have that, then, and I had loving my parents, but I didn't really know God when I was in high school and college. And I didn't have a relationship with him, and I do now. And I think just having those relationships really makes you learn to love yourself, and that there are no mistakes. I'm not a mistake. God doesn't create mistakes. And anyway, so those were the two people that really, really, really influenced my life.
Let's go down that hole. Let's talk about your faith. How did that come into your life? What was that moment? And tell us about that.
Well, when we grew up, we were weekend church goers. I didn't understand any of it. our church, I think, was in Latin. I mean, I totally didn't understand any of it. And then um, when I adopted my kids, I wanted to give them the best chance they possibly could have had in growing up right and being loved and not making mistakes. And so I researched a bunch of different churches, and I found one that wouldn't even baptize them until they were in like third grade, where they could choose to have the Lord in them. And I remember when my son was baptized, he said, I feel like I was adopted twice, once by my parents in America and once by God. And so they're really, really good kids. And I think the thing I would suggest anybody who decides to have kids is you have to have them have a faith and a respect for God, and if and respect for their parents, and respect for life, and respect for their neighbors, and a love for all that. And I think that's the best thing I ever did, was get my kids into the church at a very young age, and they would go to camps and go skiing and camp outs, and they developed the most amazing friends, that they still have today. And I still have my church friends. I see a lot of them not even on Sunday. And so I just think that was really important for me. And that was my changing point with my faith. Is I always wanted to be good and do good, but now I have a relationship, a vertical relationship.
That's the way I've always been. I wanted to do good. I wanted to help. If God is with you, who can be against you?
Yes, ma'am. Amen.
And that kind of leads into this next question about non-negotiables, your daily non-negotiables, your habits, your routines. What do you do on a daily basis that are non-negotiable?
I do like I said, to go to the gym and go for a walk. I rescue dogs. And so that's my house is full of rescues. My kids are rescues. I say to my husband, you're my rescue. And my dogs are rescues. I just rescued one that was abused and neglected, and he was very, very sick when we got him. And my sister and I decided to rescue him, and he's so cute. He's got brain problems. Like, he's so fearful and insecure and barks at everything. But I'm like, okay, God put this dog in my hands because he knows that I'm going to show him love. He's so cute. But so the joke at my house is, I go, okay, who's going to the gym? Who wants to go for a walk? And then my husband Steve always says, yeah, going to the gym makes everything better. And so that's like our inside joke, oh yeah, it makes everything better. And so my non-negotiable is that. I don't like to eat crappy food. That's another one. Not that I'm perfect. I love my potato chips, and I love my popcorn, and I love my pizza, and I love my ice cream. But I've always been, since the bodybuilding world, conscientious about what I put into my body.
Not what you do, Jack says. It's not what you do some of the time that counts. It's what you do most of the time.
Yes.
So you
absolutely.
He had all those one-liners,
I love those. Those one-liners they're so impactful. It's so true. It's not what you do
some of the time
it's what you do all the time. Exactly. And so that's like, I go to the gym. If I don't go, and it's not a big deal, but I go most of the time, and I work out most of the time, and I go for a walk with my dogs most of the time, and I eat right most of the time. So anyway, so that I think those are my non-negotiables. Also, about hanging around the wrong people, I won't do it. It's non-negotiable. If it's a person that I consider bad influence or evil, or doing something wrong to somebody else, or not being honest and truthful, I'm not going to hang around that person. That is an absolute non-negotiable.
My father was a county attorney, and he was quite a philosopher. he said, remember this. And I was called Miss Goody Two Shoes because he said, if you hang around somebody and they do something that's not right and it's against the law, you are implicated and you are going to be one of the ones in.
Yeah. Yep.
So I've always remembered that. So my nickname was Miss Goody Two Shoes. And
I was too.
On KGO TV, they called me Miss Goody Two Shoes.
I was too. And my sisters called me that, oh, she's such a goody goody. She's got to do her homework. And I mean, the first time I ever had any alcohol, I was 30. I had just quit competing. And I remember we all went to this place called the Cantina, and I had like this much wine. And I had never had any. And it wasn't that I didn't believe or whatever. It just never was in my atmosphere. I was an athlete. I was an athlete in high school. I was an athlete in college. I was an athlete for the next 10 years after college. And it was just so funny. I mean, it was, but I was a goody two shoes too. So I like that.
I'm right there with you, Cory. I'm still waiting for my first drink. Let me shift gears on you a little bit here. Let's talk a little bit about reinvention and aging boldly. Okay. You've worn so many hats, an athlete, an actress, an author, an ambassador. How have you navigated those reinventions over the decades?
Well, when I was competing, it was just all about being lean and toned, and it didn't really. I mean, it was good and bad. It was like it was good because I was good at what we were doing, but it was bad because it didn't allow me to really be like a real wife and a mother. And I was so focused, and we were so focused that I think in the long run, it was too much for me. So when I quit competing, I basically never went to contests again. I just was like, I'm going to adopt some kids.
Been there, done that. Been there, done that.
I'm going to be the best mom I can be. And I just basically became a ghost, in the bodybuilding world. And it kind of went down in my eyes because I'm old school, and I always believed in the symmetry and the proportion and the little waist and the big shoulders and the nice long, muscle bellies. And then, a couple of years later, I looked at it again and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's happened to this sport? That's my sport. It doesn't exist anymore. But so when I was in that, I was just focused on that. And then when I became a mom, I became just focused on that, and I became the best mom that I could be. And now my kids are grown up. They still live here, fortunately, because I love them so much. I would just be so lonely without them. But and now at my age, I mean, for the last many years, my sister and I always joke about this. We're going to get as fat as we possibly can get, like just kiddingly, but it's like we're so done with the perfect eating and the perfect training that I think in hindsight, my regret is that I didn't balance my life when I could have. I didn't know how to. I was so young.
Well, I think that I often think of the same thing. If I had, I wish I had done that. I wish I had balanced more. I wish I hadn't put as much emphasis on this working. And I'm a workaholic.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things I would have changed, but
yes,
but I can't regret because in a way I regret, but you can't regret. You can't look back. You can't live in tomorrow. You can't live in yesterday. So
yes.
The only time you can live in now. And so you forget what happened yesterday because you can't change it.
Yes.
So
yes.
Losing my daughter when I lost her, it's in an accident. You have to go on.
I know, but it's so hard. It's like it's so hard. It's like I say prayers at night to do that, just to be able to not think, oh, if I would have done this, if we would have talked about this, if we would have communicated, if this would have, so it's so hard. It's like easier said than done. But yet, I
But
always focus in on, I have such a beautiful family. I have beautiful kids. I have a beautiful life. My mom is still with us, still mows the
yeah,
lawn, and she gets on the tractor and mows the lawn. And when I'm at home, we garden and we just do everything. I mean, she's a really bad back, horrible. She had back surgery. She had open heart surgery when she was 82. And
yeah.
they basically said, we
I
normally
was I was 86 when I had some back surgery. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
she was 86 when she had her back surgery, but she had open heart surgery when she was 82. And the
Oh
doctors
my
were,
gosh, holy
I
cow.
know. And I stayed with her in the hospital and slept, right next to her. And then I went to the rehab center and slept with her. And then same thing with her back surgery. But they said, that if she wasn't in as good shape as she was at 82, they never would have done the whole thing where they cracked the ribs open and open the heart. But she's good. I mean, it's like she grew up in a hard time during the war in Germany, and they didn't have doctors, and she had scarlet fever, and I mean all this stuff. And it's amazing when you think about like yourself or my parents that grew up at a different time. It's like a movie to think about, no computers, no cell phones, no, my mom didn't even have a washer and dryer in Germany or a TV and stuff. It's just unbelievable. But
When I grew up, we had the Iceman and the Milkman, and they would pull up in their wagons with a horse, and then we play in the street, and we'd have to play around the horse poop.
oh my God. Well, I remember the milkman when they
And
would
we'd
bring the
all jump on the ice wagon because we always like to get, and he would be picking the ice and then bring it into our ice box.
Isn't that
You
amazing when
know,
you think about
jump on the ice wagon, and we get all those little slivers of ice. It was
oh,
so much fun.
still remember all of that. It was so meaningful. And, it was so cool and so much fun. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's, my son always says, I should have been born in your era. Like he loves the old school stuff, compared to all this new computer stuff and games and all this stuff.
It gets pretty complicated today. I, I said, oh, this, it's becoming more complicated and more complicated. Life isn't that complicated.
No, it is complicated. It's like every time you get something new, you have to figure out like my toaster. I just got a new toaster. It's like, but there's settings so that half the bread gets warmed. And I mean, it's like I just want to push it down and make toast, but everything is so complicated. So
Hey,
anyway,
Cory,
yeah.
what advice would you give to someone in their 50s or 60s that may feel like their best years are behind them?
I think we make our best years ahead of us. I mean, present. Like Elaine said, we can't live in the past. We can't live in the future. We have to live in the present. And I'm learning to do that more. It was always like I said, after I adopted my kids and I put in the 6-time Miss Olympia effort into raising them. Now like I'm starting to take golf lessons and I started to take pickleball and just doing new things and like I think we have to keep challenging ourselves. Like boredom is going to kill you. And
Yes, we do.
yeah, and my sister and I were into renovating houses and we do a lot of the work ourselves. I mean, we hire contractors, but we just did a property in Woodland Hills and another property in Woodland Hills. And I do architectural drawings and I was an interior designer and I do architectural drawings and I do landscape designs and architectural drawings only really for me and my family. And it's so much fun and it's so beautiful. And we get to see from a piece of paper where it's drawn out to seeing it built and seeing it done. And so my sister and I are really every day we're working on something like that. And it's so fun because it's like immediate gratification. The walls are going up and now we're putting up the tile that we wanted. And so I think it's continuing to learn and to challenge yourself. Not that you have to do it be as crazy as it was when we were in our 30s, 40s, and 50s, but when you're 50, 60, 70 and older, to do something every day, even if it's one thing, do one thing every day. And maybe pick up a new sport like me with golf, and I'm horrible at it, but I'm going to give it a try.
Oh, you know what? I was too, but I kept at it and became a good golfer. And then as I got older, then I got a worse golf. But anyway,
It's so hard because you want to put all your strength into it, and
yeah,
it's
you
not
have
finesse.
to, just be patient because
Yeah.
you just have to take the time. And a lot of people give it up because they can't muster it. But
Yes, you can't muscle through it. You have to learn the technique.
yeah,
And so I just think like I love my church. I've worked with a bunch of girls that were abused. And so, I used to go to the homeless shelter and help feed people. And I loved doing that. And then during COVID, they closed it down and I need to get back into that. But it's funny because like one of my friends in bodybuilding, sometimes people ask me, who are your friends that you still talk with? Well, I was still talking with Matt Mendenhall before he passed away. And my best friend in bodybuilding I have two people. Bev Francis, who lives in Australia. We're going to go to the Olympia together this year. And she never went pro, Erica Kern. And she was like, she looked like me, but better. Like I always say, you could have beat me if you were a pro. And those are my two favorite bodybuilders. And I still I talk to Bev all the time and Erica all the time.
well, you know what? If anybody is listening today and they feel that they can't be Cory. They can't be Cory. They can't be me. You can only be you.
Yes.
If you want to live a long time, you always should have a project, something
Mhm.
to do, someone to love, and something to look forward to.
Yes.
So it's very important that there's a lot of people that I've seen friends of mine just roll up in a little ball because they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And if I try to encourage them, go down to the church, volunteer, do this, do that. You don't have to be Cory. You don't have to be Lee. You don't have to be yourself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's so easy to do a little volunteer, pass out coffee at your church or go to the hospitals.
Hospital.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's twofold. You're not only helping the other person, but you're helping yourself too, because you're doing something good for humanity and you're just get out of the house once a day, do something, go help your neighbor or do something and, volunteer somewhere. So it's so important.
A lot of my golfing friends, we don't play golf anymore, but one of them has taken up painting. She never thought she could paint. She's paints these beautiful pictures. I couldn't believe
Wow.
it. She even surprised herself, you
No,
know. And
that.
and sometimes when I write something, I'll read it and I said, "Did I write that?"
That's pretty good, right? It's like
Because
that was
it's
good. Who
just
wrote that?
concentrating on something.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that I'm a better writer than I am a speaker. Like when I write, I
Yeah.
get into a zone. Yeah. Greg, you're shaking your head. Are you the same way? Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Why is that? Like I can come up with some amazing writing, but like not speaking, it's like I just can't think when
I
I'm
don't know.
speaking.
You speak pretty darn good to me.
Thank you.
You know
Thank you.
what? It's important. A lot of people they say, "Well, I can't speak. I can't do." Jack said to me, I was when I brought him to the airplane when we were going to go down to Los Angeles and start the show down there, and then I had to do it up there. And he says, "You're going to do the show. You're going to do my lectures," and I'm taking him to the airport, and I'm driving and crying. I'm saying, "Oh, I can't do your lectures. There's no way I could do it. And he says, if you know your subject, you could talk about it.
Yeah, that's true. It's so
And it's
true.
got to be from the heart.
Yeah.
You just don't speak. You
Yeah.
gotta, everything has to come from deep down.
Yeah.
Then that's when you become a success, you know.
Yeah. And know your subject and then just let it spew out of you.
Let it
I
go.
know. I remember the pictures of you and Jack where you doing that like handstand on his knees. I did the same thing with Jeff. Do you remember that
Yeah,
handstand pose?
yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And then there was another an overhead one that we did too in competition. They used to do couples competition. They don't
Yeah,
do it anymore.
Muscle Beach one, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Jack taught me a lot of He brought me to Muscle Beach and taught me a lot of that stuff. And
How did you meet
I
Jack?
scared stiff. I mean, I went to a 3 high, and I was on the top, and he said, now put your foot here, and then you put your foot there, and then what you do. So I did everything they told me to do, and then I got up at the top, and I'm like, oh my God, I was so scared.
So
And then
scared.
he said, remember, we're not going to let you fall. So
Yeah.
then I let it go and let it, just
Yeah.
really. But
Yeah.
half the battle in life is learning to relax your mind.
Yeah. Because fear is such a powerful thing. It just overtakes you
When
for
you're like
sure.
this, you tighten up everything, you close everything off, you close up
Yeah.
your mind and everything else.
Yeah, for sure.
Let it
Yeah.
all hang out.
Yeah, exactly. When we in one of our competitions when we did couples, we did your poses, the overhead
Yeah.
one and the other and but we forgot we were all greased up, how you have to put on the I was like sliding all over the place and we're looking down into the orchestra pit. I'm like, Jeff, please don't drop me. But it was
I
fun. So
know.
yeah.
Just, people must learn to be themselves. There's
Mhm.
nobody like you.
Mhm.
So therefore, you're individualized. And I've said this so many times, you're sick and tired of me saying it, but I believe it so strongly that there's nobody like you. So just be you. Don't try
Yeah.
to be somebody else. There's people who've tried to be somebody else. They want to be just like them. They want to be like that. They'll put people, they want to do the same thing. No, just be yourself.
I know I agree. My daughter and I talk about that. Like there's all the people that want to look like the Kardashians or someone else.
Oh,
And
right, right.
oh my God. And they all have the like giant fake eyelashes and the big lips and the big
And the big
butts. It's
lips.
like
Oh,
y'all look the same out there. It's like you were beautiful before you did all this stuff. Now you just look like something else, but it's just crazy. That's because people don't have self-love, and if they don't, and everybody has a gift. Like God created gifts in all of us. My gift is art. I think that's what my gift is. But we all have a gift. Some people are good in music. Some people have this, like you said, that one woman started painting and she's really good at it and surprised herself. We have a gift. Some people are good writers. Some people are good organizers. They're great at that. Some people are good
right.
drivers. And it's just, we all have a gift. We just need to find it and then use it and maybe help others with that gift.
Let me follow up with what you just said there because I think that's important. And Jack, the name of this podcast is the LaLanne Pass It On podcast. And Jack certainly believed in passing it on. What's one lesson or belief that you want to most pass on to the next generation?
Mine is almost the same as Jack's because I always say pay it forward. And there was a movie called Pay It Forward, and I love that. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's a really good term. And so, we just don't, we, meaning my family, we're just a lot about that, and it's like, if you can help somebody, help them because now they can maybe help somebody else. And so I call it Pay It Forward, and Jack calls it Pass It On. And
Yeah.
it's,
Well, Jack, so many people would thank you and say, "Oh, you've done this. You inspired me. You did this." And he says, "Just pass it on."
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and you say, just bring it
Pay
forward.
it forward.
Yeah.
And you know what? And to be kind. Like what's happened with people's kindness? Like it's just be kind. Like it's so easy to be kind. It's hard to be mean. It's takes
Yeah.
energy to be mean and ruthless and angry but like you see people's social media and they get this power behind social media and it's like do I
Learn
ever
to
write
love your neighbor as thyself.
yes, yes. And it's just I get so amazed at people's ugliness, when they like if you post a picture and they're like, I can't believe you, Miss Olympia, would believe in this politics or this, I used to like you, now I don't. And I'm like, I would never say that to somebody. Like I would never judge people like that. And just leave people alone, love them. And you don't have to believe everything they do. You don't have to, nobody's perfect. Lord knows I'm not perfect and nobody is perfect. So just be kind. What's so easy?
Cory, where can people, what are you working on these days? What projects are you doing? Where can people learn more about it and learn all
Not
about
really anywhere. I mean, I have a Facebook page and I have an Instagram page. I'm not selling anything. I'm really doing a lot of this architectural, like home remodeling and flipping and that type of thing that is just gives me so much joy. It's just, I love it. And, um, you know, my sister and we like to bargain shop and bargain stuff, and so our inside joke is we're the tight ass designers, because we buy stuff on Craigslist or on Facebook Marketplace, so it's got that double entendre, but anyways, it's like I love to create taking something that somebody sees as just nothing and making it something beautiful and giving it a whole new life again. But I'm not really like promoting anything in fitness and stuff. I do want to because I have like 260 half-hour shows of my old show, Gotta Sweat. And Jeff has about 260 half-hour shows, and we own them both. And I wanted to do like a Jeff and Cory YouTube channel or something and show those. And all the stuff that we did is still current. It's like we have
Yes, it's so true. The same with
and I was like, I own this stuff. It's in my closet. It's like I just want to, just for nothing, just get it out there again because it's helpful information. And so I don't know technology, I don't know all that stuff, but I'd love to get that stuff out there again because it's still amazing, motivational, inspiring information and it's a waste where it is. So
this is all from the ESPN show, which I remember very well back in the 90s and 2000s.
yeah,
And
yeah.
okay, so I'll follow up with you on that and see if
Okay.
I can help you
Yeah,
with that.
maybe Greg can help you,
Yes, it would be great. It'd be great. It's like, and I have all of Jeff's shows too. And so, I just want to do what Elaine is doing for Jack. I want to do that for Jeff.
Well,
I
that's,
mean,
yeah,
he was a PhD, he was
Yes.
he had records in Olympic lifting and shot put and javelin and discus throwing, and the records held forever, ever, ever. And he was so smart and has all these articles he wrote and then these TV shows. The TV shows are easy to watch, it's like, so I just want to honor him.
Maybe we
Because,
can pass it on together.
yes,
yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I want to encourage anyone listening to look up Jeff Everson.
Yeah,
And yes, he did have quite a body of work. And then,
yeah,
of course, Jeff and Cory together did.
yeah,
So definitely look that up. And
yeah.
learn more about that because yeah, he was a PhD
Yeah.
and just yeah, real smart and
Oh,
good
super smart. Yep. Did
good stuff.
yeah.
So
When
I encourage
and what's
that.
Well,
interesting is
there was no industry really. There was just bodybuilding places, a bodybuilding mostly for men.
yeah,
And so Jack had to create a profession. And that's what
yes.
he did. He created a profession.
Yeah.
And of course, it's taken off from there. But I mean, it's,
Well, I remember the first gym I went to, went in Illinois after I graduated from college. There was a gym, but there was no women's locker room. There was no women's bathroom. So it was
oh,
my sister and I, Cameo and I, it was all men and then Cameo and I, and we would just have to like watch to go to the bathroom to change or whatever when the men weren't in there. And now it's just, just amazing what's happening with the fitness industry. And when I first started, Title IX had just 4 or 5 years earlier had just occurred where they had, the equal opportunities for women's sports. So I grew up thinking it was normal that there was so many women's sports in high school and so many women's sports in college. And I didn't even realize that it was just a few years prior to that where there wasn't.
so
And
we didn't have
Dan Todd was a part of that. So
Jack had to he took 100 pounds off of this gal, and she finally started running Jack's women's department, and then he made a
oh,
separate department for women because before they'd have separate,
yes, yes.
Well, we anyway, we want to know, we want you to pass on what you know too.
I'm going to do that. Yeah.
Elaine, I'll give you the last word.
Cory, you love me and I love you, and there's a mutual love, and we love everybody in the whole wide world. My
You
daughter
do.
used to say, I just love everybody in the whole wide world,
You
and that's the
do.
way I feel. And so I just want to send this love off to everyone today, to you, Cory, to Greg, who has really helped me along, and this love, we want it to go on, and we want to pass it on.
Pass it on. I'm kissing you right now. Mwah. Thank you.